What's up, guys? It is Trev the Great here again from Way of the Swan with another Way of the Swan battle report coming at ya. But before we get to the battle report, I just wanted to talk about why I haven't been recording videos lately. And the short answer is that I have, but I made a couple of mistakes. I lost my camera for a little bit. Or I didn't lose it. I knew exactly where it was. It was at my gaming store for like 2 weeks. I kept forgetting it, which is really stupid. Don't do that. But the last video I was going to release, which was a Haley 2 versus Denegro 1 game, which was very exciting, ended up not recording fully, and I only got about 75% of it. So that was not very exciting, and I was very sad. I recorded a couple other games, but none of them turned out as well. They were like top of 2 assassinations. They were not incredibly exciting, but this game is very solid. This is a very good game. This is the semifinal round of the Dark Omen Gaming Club's Boost for a Cure event, which is a charity event that hosts a 32-man 5-round steamroller, which is a qualifier for the Dark Omen Invitational, which is a qualifier for the Warmachine Weekend Invitational. So there is a little bit on the line if you decide to go through both qualifiers. There are a lot of games of Warmachine to be played, but if you win them all, then you could get a ticket to Warmachine Weekend, which is very exciting. For those who don't know, Dark Omen Gaming Club is a very competitive group of Warmachine players from the Connecticut area. They host the Forgot to Feat podcast on Hand Cannon Online. I will shoot you guys a link to their website right on the screen right now. But I took my filming equipment with me to the tournament, and they wanted me to film the semifinal and final rounds. Those videos, the raw footage, I believe, should be up on their YouTube channel at some point. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do with them, but I'll give you guys a link to their YouTube channel on the screen right now, so you can check them out when they go up later. But I decided to record over this video and voice over it because I thought it was a really good game. Very solid game of Stryker2 versus Doomshaper1, the Tier 4 Runes of War list that everyone is all the rave about. It is a terrifying list, and everyone should know what it looks like and how to play against it because it can beat the crap out of you if you're not prepared. So let's get into lists. The Stryker2 list I'm playing today is one that I've been playing various variations of for over a year now, probably about a year and a half. This is a sort of a variant of the New England Stryker2 list, quote unquote, that I think Chain Attack came up with that, but Ben Court and I sort of put it together from stuff that's good with Stryker2, and it's been talked about a little bit on News on Minis, I think, and Chain Attack talked about it a little bit. But if you, I get a couple questions about it, and if you're looking for an example of what the list looks like and how it plays, although it did make a couple mistakes this game, which I'll talk about when we get into the game, this is a pretty good video to watch. But what's in the list is a bonded Lancer with Stryker, a Squire attached to Stryker, in the Journeyman Warcaster in there, Reinhold the Gobber Speculator, a Stormsmith, because not only did I have a point, but Stormsmiths are great. They are so good for 1 point. They are probably not fair models. They are so awesome. Additionally, there is the Black 13th Gunmage Strike Team to add some more shooting, Ion and Holt to buff my damage output and shoot more dudes. To shoot even more dudes, I have a unit of Gunmage Pistoliers with their unit attachment, a unit of Horgenhold Forge Guard, a max unit with Jonas Murdoch because they are incredibly good. Stryker2 buffs anything I want them to, everything I want them to do, and with Maxwell Finn, they go pretty far, they hit very hard, and with reach they can really benefit from his feat a lot, and it's awesome. Last but not least is a max unit of Storm Lances. That's another unit that I love with Stryker2. If you don't know why, I have a giant article on my blog about it. I'll probably post a link up here at some point, probably in the video description. But the gist of it is that Storm Lances are basically Stormblade infantry that don't ever have a problem getting there, except that they can also kill tons and tons of infantry with their Electroleaps and Ride-by attacks, and they just do whatever I want. With Positive Charge and Kiss of Illus, they can go up to Power Strength 19 on the charge, which is very solid, and then a Power 17 follow-up if I feat that turn, and then or they hit at Mat 13 with Positive Charge and Path to Victory, which is ridiculous. They can like hit Chaos Assassins no problem, and then feed into them. They can even feat and hit each other with their spears and Electroleap into high defense infantry, and they just do whatever. It's awesome. I love those guys. But that is my list. It is a very solid list, and I love it. It tends to fight a lot of infantry matchups, especially ones that rely on stuff like orders of special attacks. A lot of shield wall infantry. Convergence of Cyrus Infantry a lot of times fall down to Rebuke. Same with Kador and Runeshapers. So that's why I took this list. This was actually the 4th time I took this list in this tournament out of a 5-round tournament with Divide and Conquer 1. So I locked myself into my other list in the final round, which was Haley 2. But that's okay because Haley 2 is really good against sort of whatever. And Stryker2 is awesome and pretty solid against Runes of War, I think. My opponent is Jeff Fredrickson. He's a very strong player from the New York area, and he is no stranger to YouTube videos. He's been on a couple of YouTube videos. I'll try to scare those up if I can and put them probably in the video description, but he is a very, very strong troll player, and he is playing Tier 4 Runes of War with Doomshaper1. This is a very popular list. It is very common, and if you play against the Runes of War list in a tournament, it will probably be very, very similar, if not identical to this list, because this is the best, I think, the best way to get the most out of the tier benefits from the list, which are, if I can remember them off the top of my head, plus 2 inches to your deployment zone, a number of walls completely within 20 inches of your table edge. This list gives you 2, and I don't remember off the top of my head exactly how many it is. It might be per 2 units of Runeshapers that you get those walls, but I don't remember. The Krillstone starts with Fury, I believe 4 Fury in this particular version of the list, and your Runeshapers go down to 3 points per unit, so basically 1 point per model, which is a steal for those guys. They are so good, even at 4 points per unit. And they become FA unlimited, so you can take as many as you want, in this case 4. So the list is Doomshaper. In his battle group is Moog the Ancient, a Earthborn Dire Troll, a Dire Troll Mauler, and a Troll Axer to give some Pathfinder so you can actually get over those walls. A Max Krillstone with the Stone Scribe Elder, Janissa Stonetide, the Runeshaper Solo, who gives all the Runeshapers in your command Force Lock, and makes 1 more wall, so you're going to be up to 3 walls that you get to place, 2 before the game starts, 1 every turn, which is very, very strong to keep your Warbeast safe from both shooting and melee. And then 4 units of Runeshapers. Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 12 5-box, tough, no knockdown, probably armor 17-ish dudes on the table with Force Lock and giant rocks that they throw at people, and they are incredibly annoying, and nobody likes them. So let's see how the proud Signaran soldiers can deal with all of this just miserable troll armor in the game. So here we are in deployment. Before we get into it, I just want to talk about the terrain a little bit. The Dark Omen Club was more worried about creating a competitive steamroller environment than making the table look particularly nice. So they ended up using these cutouts for terrain, which worked very well to keep the game very clear and concise. Don't look as great on camera, but you can't have everything. What the terrain represents, that square down to the black square towards the bottom of the screen there, is an obstruction. Above it is the gray rectangle, which is a trench. Above that is a brown rectangle, which is a hill. Next to that are those blue circles, which are shallow water. The green circles are a forest, and then the tan circles are rough terrain. And then in the center is that white rectangle there, and that is a linear obstacle. Obviously, the terrain is very, very good for the troll player. There's a lot of rough terrain to get the benefit from Elemental Communion off, the +2 speed benefit. There's also a wall there to compound with Janissa's wall and the 2 walls from the Theme Force, so there's going to be a lot of linear obstacles going on. Now, I did win the roll to go first and chose to take the first turn, despite the fact that there was so much favorable terrain on my opponent's side. My opponent chose that side, which I was okay with. I don't really want to deal with all that rough terrain. I only have a limited amount of Pathfinder in my list. And this side seemed fine, but I also wanted to get my Lancer as far up the table as possible so I could start getting rebukes out early. Here's all my stuff running forward. The Lancer's running up there with Arcane Shield to keep it safe from any damage my opponent wants to throw at it early. Deflection going down on Stryker, everything else running up. You can see the Stormlances and Pistoliers across my opponent's zone, just to be models that get in the zone and contest, whereas the Black 13th and Forge Guard are across from my zone to try to clear models out when they decide to go in and contest, so I can dominate it with Stryker. Here come the Runeshapers. All the Runeshapers just running up. They are getting very aggressive, so I'm going to be able to throw out a couple rebukes next turn. Janissa moving up into that forest. She is a Runeshaper, and all the Runeshapers have innate Pathfinder, so she's not worried about the forest. And she's throwing down a wall there for the Earthborn to run behind. The Earthborn and Doomshaper putting down Elemental Communion on Mulg and the Mauler, so they're going to get the +2 armor bonus from all those linear obstacles around there. There's the Mauler moving into the center there, next to the objective. Doomshaper, you can see, is behind the wall closest to my opponent's board edge, behind all those war beasts, so he's very safe back there. This scenario does not have a kill box, so he'll be able to stay back there for most of the game. And then the Creelstone just running up to give their giant bubble to as many models as possible. Now, the Creelstone can't reach an enormous distance. It is 11-inch size when it starts out with Max Fury, which it has right now. But not all the Rune Shaper is going to be in that, so I'm going to try to pick off as many as possible from the outside of that bubble so that my little power 10 guns can get some damage in before my more powerful like hand cannons, power 12 guns from the Stormlances start doing work on the armor 17 guys that are inside the stone. So I decide to begin by just spending a turn trying to take out as many of those Rune Shapers as possible. The Gun Mage is going in, killing one of them. The Stormlances receiving a ride-by attack order, dealing a little bit of damage. That guy missed, I think. This guy going in, taking his shot. The Stormlances are only Rat 5, so they don't normally hit with their guns if they don't have an accuracy buff. But they do only need 7s to hit the Defense 12 Trolls, and they can deal a lot of damage if they get in there with their Power 10 gun, and then a Power a Power 12 gun and a Power 10 Electroleap. So they generate a lot of damage rolls. So that unit of Rune Shapers ended up getting completely wiped out by the combined firepower of the Gun Mages and the Stormlances. And Holt, I think, put one shot into the last Rune Shaper there. Here are the Black 13th going in and dealing a little bit of damage to one of the Rune Shaper units on the other side. That looks like a Stormcaller running around a little bit, and then all the Forge Guard moving up. They're just advancing and then using Go to Ground to keep them safe from any rock hammers that do end up coming their way. There's the Lancer moving up, and Rebuke being cast through him onto both of those Rune Shaper units across from my zone, so they're not going to be able to do much of anything. They can't run, can't charge, can't do any of their spells because they are all offensive magic attacks. And they're just very sad in general. Deflection going down to keep my dude safe from any magic that decides to go my way, and passing the turn to my opponent. So, with most of his Rune Shapers not particularly useful this turn, the unit in my opponent's zone will be able to cast spells, but the other two units aren't going to be able to. I think my opponent's going to play a little cagey here. Here goes this unit, just throwing some rock hammers out, taking out one Gun Mage and the rest of them, taking out, looks like another Gun Mage there, and that's all for that unit. The rest of the army is just shuffling around, those two units across from my zone just moving forward because that's really all they can do, and everything else just repositioning. Without really heavy guns that that my list sort of lacks, I don't really have a way of forcing my opponent to need to engage me, so I think what he's going to do here is just try to clear his zone as many times as possible, and try to win on scenario effectively by clearing his zone repeatedly. One of the strengths of Runes of War is that even if you can chew through all the armor 17 Rune Shapers with tons and tons of boxes, a lot of times once you do that, you don't have the beef to take out the War Beasts. There are 3 heavy War Beasts. They're going to be armor 22 most of the time. There's Janissa's Wall going down, Elemental Communion on both of the heavy War Beasts there, next in my opponent's zone. So it's going to be very difficult for me to try to kill those War Beasts and get ahead on attrition. Just trying to take out those Rune Shapers as much as possible. Looks like the Holt took 2 of them out because he's a champ. And then here are the Black 13th going in, dealing as much damage as possible. I'm sorry, that wasn't the Black 13th. That was a Stormcaller. Now those Rune Shapers are the only models in my zone, so given that it's my 3rd turn, I can now score. My opponent scored 1 point by dominating his own zone with Doomshaper, who's hiding behind Mulg there. And now Stryker can get into that zone and start dominating himself. The Stormlances go. They received Overcome from Runewood to give them Pathfinder, and I do have 1 charge onto Janissa. So I decide to spend a Stormlance taking that. There's the Stormlance leader is in the center there. 3 Stormlances behind him. He's charging into the Runeshapers to try to take as many out as possible. I believe he does hit, connect, and enforce a tough check, but the Runeshaper toughs. And then the Stormlance charging Janissa needs not double ones to hit her. I'm sorry, needs a 5 to hit her because I'm attacking over a wall. Ends up missing with a 4. So that was very unfortunate. It would have been nice to take Janissa out early to stop that extra wall from going down. I think it was worth giving up a Stormlance to do so, and I felt pretty good about it. Here are the Forge Guard moving in. I get 1 to charge into that lone Runeshaper that's in my zone. He ends up hitting, taking that Runeshaper out, and he fails his tough check, which clears the zone for Stryker to do whatever he wants. Looks like Stryker puts a Rebuke down onto that remaining unit of Runeshapers, the last 3 remaining. And then, last but not least, my Lancer moves over towards my opponent's zone there. That's just to threaten positive charge. The Lancer does need to be within about 12 inches of wherever positive charge needs to be in order to make that happen. And my opponent is stacking all of his heavy armor in his zone, so I'm moving the Lancer over there, still with Arcane Shield on him. Just to make it a little bit easier to get positive charge where I need it. I don't think he's particularly in danger, and if my opponent wants to move up a heavy that close in order just to kill a Lancer, I'm fine with that. So he seems good where he is. Now my opponent has 2 Gun Mages and a Stormlance in his zone. He's going to need to clear those to score again. First of all, he starts running his Stone Scribes into the zone. The Stone Scribe Elder there does have a very large command of 10, I believe, so those Stone Scribes are going to be able to get very far out there in order to contest without being out of command. The Mauler moving in, taking a double-handed throw actually after animusing himself at one Stormlance into the other Stormlance, killing both of them, which is a very strong play, obviously. Killing 2 models for the price of 1 was pretty cool. But those Runeshapers aren't going to be able to really do much. They can't really hit those Gun Mages and the Rebuke, so they can't Tremor. So they're just moving around to contest the zone and sort of get in the way, while Mulg gets rushed and then, I think, charges at that Gun Mage over there. This might have been a misplay by my opponent. I don't think Mulg really needed to be that far up. I think Doomshaper could have chucked a couple spells and taking out the Gun Mages instead of Mulg being up there. But he ends up killing both of the Gun Mages and then goading back as far as possible. Unfortunately for my opponent, the Stormlances are very fast, so I don't think that distance is going to be quite far enough for Mulg. And he's going to eat a couple charges next turn. Hopefully with my feet I can deal a bunch of damage and potentially even take him out. And once Mulg's taken out, that's a huge deal in this matchup, because Mulg can really, really threaten Stryker in a way none of the other Warbeasts can. Obviously they're still heavy Troll Warbeasts, and they're very, very solid, and they hit very hard, but Mulg's the one that really scares me. He's Power Strength 19 base, Mat 7, with the ability to boost with 5 Fury. He's got his Affinity attack, so he gets an additional attack if he doesn't kill something. He just hits incredibly hard. Everything else just runs up. Elemental Communion going down on the Mauler. I don't think it's on Mulg, actually, at this point, which, again, might have been another mistake on my opponent's part, leaving Mulg out there, not particularly defended. But we'll see how it goes. The Black 13th taking some shots at the Stone Scribes in my zone, just trying to take them out as much as possible. So that zone is cleared again, so Stryker's going to be able to dominate a second time to score me 2 points. My opponent did clear the zone last turn, so he is on 2 points as well. I forgot to mention, 4 focus went into that Lancer. It is bonded, so I can allocate it all 4, which is awesome. And then during Stryker's turn, he's going to cast Positive Charge onto it and Feet, so that we're going to make sure that Mulg goes down. Iona and Holt moved forward, taking some Holt's line of sight. And Holt moves forward and takes his hand cannon shots into some Runeshapers. We Kiss of Lilith Mulg the Ancient to just make it absolutely sure that guy is dead. Take the one Runeshaper in the way out, and the Lancer activates in a sec. After the Gun Mages go, who take some more shots at some Runeshapers, trying to take him out. And then here comes the Lancer. Turn him into a proxy base because of those crazy, crazy clubs and spears that we both have. The Lancer doing a bunch of damage on his charge. Between Positive Charge and Kiss of Lilith, he's Mat 8, Power Strength 16, so I think I did kill enough Krillstone members for the Krillstone ore to drop until Mulg's out of it. So Mulg is going to end up not being particularly hard to kill. He's armor 19 against my Lancer, who's at dice -3. And then those Storm Lances go in. One goes into the one remaining Rune Shaper. 2 of them go into Mulg, and he goes down to the first one. So Mulg is down. I do get my feet movements with those guys just to get in there. The Forge Guard go up. I charge a couple into Janissa. I charge 1 into the last Rune Shaper in that zone. And then I charge a bunch into the Earthborn Dire Troll. Now this was actually a very big mistake on my part. Obviously, Earthborn Dire Trolls, he's right next to the Krillstone, so he's going to get the Krillstone aura, and they always have, effectively, Elemental Communion on them, which means that that model's going to be armor 22, and I don't have any damage buffs out on him. Normally, it's not too bad if I have a Kiss of Lilith or a positive charge there, and I can deliver a ton of damage with those Forge Guard, but 4 or 5 Forge Guard charges, however many I got in, without a damage buff are not going to be enough to deal a significant amount of damage to that model. And even if I do deal a bunch of damage, he's going to kill them all and then snack back up to full health, or as close to it as he can get, which is the part I forgot about. Obviously, I knew that those Forge Guard were probably going to get killed. I forgot that it was going to be able to heal that Earthborn back up to as much as it would. Here are the feet moves going in. I end up killing Janissa, killing the last Rune Shaper in the zone, and taking a couple attacks on Doomshaper. I don't think I needed to. I ended up missing them. And I think it would have been better if the Storm Lances had actually retreated using the 3-inch feet move to have been out of threat range of that Axer that's over there. But I do end up scoring an additional point because my opponent lost all of the contesting models in his zone. Doomshaper is a Warlock, so he doesn't contest. So I'm going to be at 3 points to my opponent's 2. So suddenly, the scenario swing is back in my favor, although my opponent still has 2 heavies on the board, so it could go pretty poorly for me either way. That Earthborn took a significant amount of damage from just a ton of Forge Guard attacks, but it wasn't enough to really cripple him in any lasting manner. So we're back over to my opponent's turn. After Fury management happens, he decides to activate his Krillstone. They receive a run charge order, so he's going to be able to take a couple of attacks into the Forge Guard with some of those models. He doesn't put them in the zone anymore. That is because I'm, killing the ones in the zone. So he doesn't want to lose any more Krillstone members than he can really help, because that's not good. But that Earthborn's going to be able to get in there with a trample. I did line up my Forge Guard beautifully for a wonderful trample, which was very silly of me. Not really sure why I did that. But he's going to be able to trample right into that zone, and it's going to be great. There's Doomshaper going. I think he hits a Stormlance to death with his stick. Or no, he doesn't. He tries and he fails. And then the Axer going in, taking out both those Stormlances with boosted attacks, and then Doomshaper putting Fortune in on that Earthborn. The Earthborn with the +2 speed, not that he needed it, from the being near that forest, ends up trampling over tons of Forge Guard and removing a bunch of them, and then using that to heal himself back up. So, like I said, this was an enormous mistake on my part. I don't know why I did it. Keeping those Forge Guard in the back to kill anything that moved into that zone would have been much, much better. And they would have been able to get in and take out any of those War Beasts that got into my zone with Stryker's help and the help of my guns and damage buffs back there. But giving them away like that was a complete mistake. And now we know, so don't do that so much. We're back to my turn, though. My opponent was unable to clear his zone, so he's still on 2 points. I'm on 3. And I decide that I think I have a chance to shoot the Earthborn to death. Ayana moves up, tries to Kiss of Illicit, but it's within 2 inches of that rough terrain there, so he's going to be able to get the +2 defense bonus, and Ayana misses the Kiss of Lilith. Now, had I hit between the Black 13th with their boosted power 10s up to 12s, Holt's shots, Runewood's shot, the Finn's shot, Junior's shot, all my guns, I would have been able to take the Earthborn out with just range attacks. So Stryker wouldn't even have had to overload to take him out. But where he is at this point, without that Kiss of Lilith, I'm not going to be able to do that. So the Black 13th instead take out a number of the Krillstone members. And I decide to start going for the Krillstone. At least I can make something out of this turn, and just try to make things happen. I consider overloading Stryker and taking out that Earthborn, but with defense 14 next to the water there, and the Mauler right next to him, I think that seems like a pretty bad play if I wanted to take a bunch of damage to do that. And then here's the Krillstone taking a shot at the the Stormlance taking a shot at the Krillstone, but ended up being out of range. So Stryker runs out of the zone. I'm not in the zone, but I am contesting it. So the score stays at 3-2 in my favor. This is getting to be a very exciting game. It's really all going to come down to where that Earthborn decides to go, in order to see what's going on in this, what's going to happen in this particular matchup. So the Krillstone moves up, pops its aura. The Earthborn trampling, I believe, into that objective, taking a hit on whoever that was. That might have been Maxwell Finn. I think it was, but not ended up killing him. Maxwell Finn is defense 14 and pretty hard to hit. And then the Earthborn taking his attacks onto the objective and taking it out. He is also engaging Holt, I believe, which becomes pretty important later on. So Doomshaper going, taking out one model over there. I think it might have been a gun mage that was just up there getting in the way. And then putting Rush out onto the Axer. Now, what my opponent's going to do here is try to clear the zone again. Here comes the Mauler charging and taking his attacks onto that Stormlance, taking him out eventually. I think he missed the first one. And then the Axer's about to go here. After the Mauler goads. The Axer is actually going to slam that Lancer out of the zone, knock him down. So that is going to net my opponent a third control point and a fourth control point because he destroyed the objective. So things getting a little bit tight here. The score is 3-4 in my opponent's favor, and there's an Earthborn Dire Troll in my face. Now, my opponent left the zone unguarded, my zone. It's uncontested, so I figured if I could get a Kiss of Illus out onto his objective, unfortunately, I would be able to kill it. Unfortunately, Holt took a free strike from that Earthborn, ended up dying, and Ayana failed her command check. So she wasn't going to be able to Kiss of Lilith, which meant that I'm not going to be able to destroy that objective this turn. So I enter sort of a panic mode. I'm not really sure what to do. I go into the tank for quite a while and nervously move my dice around in my hand. Eventually, I decide to move my gun mages over into my opponent's zone. I just want to put as many models into the zone as possible. There's 2 gun mages in the zone, and they start thunderbolting the Earthborn over closer to Stryker. Now, if Stryker can take out that Earthborn and be in a safe position, I can go up to 4 points. Hope my opponent can't kill both the gun mages and other models I put in the zone. There's Murdoch getting in there, taking some random pot shots, and I think Runewood gets in there as well. So I'll have 2 5-box infantry models in the zone, 2 gun mages, and the Lancer back in there after standing up. So fortunately, it's going to be a reasonably difficult task for my opponent to clear the zone, especially if I can kill that Earthborn, and Stryker can threaten a scenario victory on the follow-up turn. So here is Runewood. I think he run? I think he ran into the zone there, just to get in the way. And Stryker going, overloading for 2 dice, taking a reasonable number of damage. I think he took 6 damage for 6 strength, charging into that Earthborn, who is way far away from any defensive terrain, so he's just a defense 12, armor 18 dude guy, and he gets the crap kicked out of him by Stryker. Stryker kills him in 2 or 3 hits. He had been damaged a little bit from last turn, and he wasn't able to heal fully from killing the Forge Guard. But Stryker, sitting at 10 or 11 boxes, camping a significant number of focus, dominates the zone to go to 4 points to 4. So CPs are tied, and I pass the turn. So very exciting game. So it comes down to whether my opponent can contest my zone, really. Even if my opponent can destroy all the models in his zone and score, he's going to put the score to 5-5 if he can't either kill Stryker or contest the zone. Now, he does make a misplay here, and we talked about this later, but he leaves 1 Fury on the Mauler, and it does not frenzy, fortunately for him. But if he had left that Fury on the Axer instead, the Mauler might have had a chance to get to Stryker and take him out. Here's Doomshaper going in, making some attacks on Murdoch, putting Fortune and Rush, I believe, onto the Mauler. Or does he change that to Rage? In any case, Fortune's on there, and the And Doomshaper puts more into the stone. Now the stone tries to run into my zone. He's not able to get there with his models. They're only speed 5, so they don't run 10. So Stryker's going to be able to dominate to 5 points this turn unless he gets eaten by a Dire Troll. So here's what my opponent does. He tramples with the Mauler. He tramples over Runewood and 1 Gun Mage. He needs a 7 to hit Runewood. You get a judge here to just make sure that the line's okay. Using a bunch of proxy bases, as you should, and then measures to see if the Mauler's position is going to be inside the Krillstone for the +1 strength bonus while it tramples. It's not, unfortunately. He ends up killing Runewood with the trample, trying to roll the hit. He trampled Iana. Tried to roll the hit, needing a 9 Iana, missed it with the reroll, and was only able to goad once. 2 goads would have gotten him to Stryker, which gave him a chance to win the game. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to take out Iana, so he wasn't able to get that second goad to get the Mauler into Stryker. Even if he hadn't killed Stryker with it, at least the Mauler would have been in my zone. It would have been another model that I had to kill, probably with Stryker, because it would have been in melee and hard to shoot at that point. And at least my opponent would have had to make me roll dice to win the game on scenario at that point anyway, even though he couldn't clear the zone. We also talked about him trying to clear the zone. He might have been possible if the Mauler had moved over to take out the Lancer or like double-handed throw him out of the zone or something, and the Axer had switched positions to Thresher as many people as possible. It still would have been a little dicey, probably a little less dicey than trying to get that Mauler into the zone, but either way would have been an interesting way for my opponent to play himself out of that predicament. But I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. It was a very exciting game. As when Iana failed to hit the Earthborn initially with her Kiss of Lilith, needing a 6, I think, because he was next to the water, and then she failed her command check later, I thought that the game was my opponent's. But it turns out Stryker can close out the game pretty well, and my opponent just didn't have enough stuff left on my half of the board in order to contest that zone. So, very exciting game. I hope everybody learned some stuff, like don't charge tons of Forge Guard at an Earthborn Dire Troll, just try to damage it because it'll just eat them and heal back up. But that is my battle report for today. Stay tuned for more battle reports and awesome stuff from this YouTube channel and wayoftheswan.com. Again, I really hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that people ask you to do on YouTube. Talk to you later.